I have stuck to these tips for 4 semesters now, and I have been able to get a 4.0 while doing my prereqs for my nursing program. I really do believe that these can work no matter what class you're taking or where you're at on your college journey. I do these every single semester and they have not let me down yet. Now, this information is not coming from a genius. I didn't get into Harvard. I don't have some insane IQ, but I did get into nursing school and I have gotten a 4.0 the last 4 semesters in college. I barely graduated high school. I do not consider myself to be academically gifted. I don't think that these are magic things that are going to just solve all of your problems or magically make you get A's in college. But I do believe that if you stick to these things, that they will significantly improve your grades. I know I really struggled, especially in high school, figuring out what has worked for me. It has completely changed my academic career and how well I have been able to do. My first tip is mindset. You have to want this. You have to have the mindset that you're gonna do this, you're gonna put the work in, no matter what the class is, that you're up for the challenge, and that you are fully capable of doing well. I have had several professors open up their first lecture or meeting with saying things like, this class has a 50% fail rate, or this class has a 70% fail rate. I hear that and it's a challenge, and I thrive under pressure, sometimes in an unhealthy way. Tell me that it's a 90% fail rate, I'm still gonna make it and I'm still gonna do well. So you have to have the mindset that no matter what, you're gonna get through it and you're gonna do well. These next 2 things kind of go hand in hand. Learning how you study the best and how you learn the best is key. If you learn the best by listening or by doing or handwriting your notes or whatever it may be, figure it out, and it may take a little bit of time to find that, but figure out what works best for you. And then with that, find out with each class and with each professor how they teach, what materials they use, and then combine those things to make sure that you're able to study in an efficient way. Sometimes my professors, the way they teach does nothing for me. They teach, it goes in one ear, out the other. So sometimes what I have to do is figure out them and how they teach and the materials that they're using, whether it's PowerPoints or physical handouts, or they give you an ebook or a textbook and they say, here's your test, here's the chapters, read those, you have a week. Whatever it may be, then what I do, since I know how I learn best, I take all of that information and then I go do what I do, which is, for me, handwriting my notes, and for anything that I'm not getting, I watch YouTube videos. Now, those 2 things are for most of my classes. Math is a little different, and I'll get to that in a minute, but those 2 things go hand in hand. Learning how you learn best, learning how you study the best, and learning how your professor teaches and the materials that they use, and integrating those 2 things of getting that information to stick and making all those connections that you need to make in order to understand the material that you need to understand. For math classes specifically, I know my college, we usually have a software that we use that the teachers have all of their assignments, quizzes, homeworks, and tests. And what has worked really well for me is learning how that software works. I've only had to use 2 different softwares. For 2 of my math classes, we use the same software. So by the time I got to my second math class, I was familiar with the software. I knew how it asked the questions. I knew how to type in the answers so it wouldn't mark it wrong for some weird mistake. Any kind of math problem that I didn't get, I just practiced over and over and over. So I knew no matter how that software asked me that math question, I was gonna get it right every single time, no matter what. Then my third math class, of course, they changed up the software. So I had to relearn how that specific program asked its questions, how it wanted me to input my answers. Once you figure out how it works, it is still the same concept as learning how your professor teaches. I cannot stress this enough. This is probably, for me, my biggest thing that I make sure I stick to no matter what. That is sleep. You have to get good sleep. You have to get consistently good sleep. I have noticed that when I get good sleep before a lecture or before a study session, I'm more alert, I can absorb more information, and then when I get good sleep after a study session, I have been able to retain that information better. There are studies on it, it is proven, it is known. You need good sleep. For me, it makes me a better student, a better wife, a better mother, a better friend. When I don't get good sleep, I'm grumpy, my attention span is super short, and when I am really tired, sometimes I feel sick. And I have noticed that when I don't have good sleep and I'm sitting there, I'm trying to study or I'm trying to listen to the professor or whatever it may be, I can't retain anything. You need good sleep for your health, for your brain, for your well-being. You need sleep. I cannot stress that enough, and how beneficial it has been for me and my grades and my overall mental health. So please get good sleep. My next tip is, if you are still not getting something or things aren't working out in a class and you're not grasping the material, get a different perspective. My favorite thing is YouTube. So if I'm not grasping something, especially when it comes to classes like anatomy and physiology, especially the physiology part of things, all I needed to do was get a different perspective other than the professor or the notes or the PowerPoint or the book. All I needed was to watch a video or 2 or 3 until I made that connection. Somebody said something, somebody made some kind of point, and it made that connection of what I wasn't understanding, and it like built this bridge to get me there to understand. Ninja Nerd is my favorite guy for in science and biology, so I highly recommend him for science classes. But again, if you're not getting something, get a different perspective. Your brain is like a web of all these different things, points of information. And I like to think of it as, sometimes I have these 2 webs, there's information over here and there's information over here, but in the middle, I can't quite form the bridge to connect that information to understand the whole picture. So sometimes I'll need to watch YouTube or even ask my husband. He's in the medical field. He has a way of being able to explain things to me to get those 2 things to finally join together to where I can actually understand. And that leads me into my next tip. This kind of goes hand in hand with my last one, but don't memorize. When it comes to nursing school, especially science classes, you need to truly understand the concept or the thing it is that you need to learn. You might can get away with memorizing things when it comes to medical terminology classes, maybe even anatomy. I know with lab, all we had to do was identify the parts of the body, but with the physiology part of it, you need to understand and not just memorize. You cannot and you should not be trying to memorize everything, especially when it comes to science classes and nursing in general. It's gonna come back to bite you in your butt, and it may work out temporarily, but down the line at some point, that concept that you didn't grasp, that you just simply memorized, you're gonna kick that out of your brain at some point. And later down the road, you need that to form that bridge to the next connection. So if you're only memorizing, it's not going to help you out in the long run. You need to understand, you need to grasp these concepts. I promise, even if it seems like this mountain of stuff that you need to understand, it's one bite at a time, and it truly helps you with the big picture when you are going at it to understand and not memorize. This next tip has to be one of my favorites and most beneficial, right next to getting enough sleep, and that is to stay ahead. So life is gonna happen, and when you're ahead and those things do happen, you may not be ahead anymore, but you're not going to be behind. I know that some professors lock assignments, or you can't work ahead in terms of quizzes and tests like that, but even if it's just studying or looking ahead in your books or just going over the information that you already have and making that information that you have at hand stick even more, so you can like really apply yourself for the next chapter or next test or whatever it may be, it helps. It is so beneficial because life is going to happen. Your kid's going to get sick, or your car's going to break down, or you're going to get sick. You never know. So stay ahead so you're not behind when those unexpected things do happen, because they will happen. My next tip is time management. I think we all can understand that. Time management kind of helps everything that I already said, and getting good sleep, staying ahead, things like that. If you don't have good time management, none of that can happen. You can't get enough sleep, you can't stay ahead. So just have good time management so things can flow and it doesn't seem super overwhelming, or at least not as much as it could be. I have tried to use planners, physical planners. It doesn't work out for me, but what has helped is I have a calendar in the hallway where my kids' backpacks are, and every single month I write out the month and I write out anything that's important, especially school things, and I see that calendar every single morning when I take my kids to school and every single afternoon when I pick them up. So that's just how I stay organized in terms of having a calendar and time management. I also set reminders on my phone, so I have my calendar in my hallway that I see. I have reminders on my phone. So just using good time management is super beneficial. My last tip is to take breaks. Take care of your mental health. Take time for yourself. College is really difficult, and if you're a parent or you're working, or if you're all three of those things, you're working, you're a parent, and you're in school, it can get really difficult and it's really stressful and it's hard. So don't beat yourself up when things don't maybe go to plan, or that you have dropped the ball on something. It happens to all of us, but you need to take those moments and those times for yourself, for your health, for everyone around you. I know personally, when I have those moments where I actually take some time to do some self-care, I come out refreshed. I am a much better mom and a wife and a person and a student. So you really need to take those times for yourself. I think it was either my second or my third semester in college. It was finals week and I ended up in the hospital. So I was extremely stressed. I was overworked. I probably was not getting enough sleep, and my heart was doing some funky things, and it just was not fun. It wasn't good. My physical and mental health was definitely struggling. I could take my own advice, work in some self-care more than I already do. So taking a break and getting self-care, it can help everything overall. So those are my tips to do well in college. That is how I've been able to get a 4.0. No, none of these are magic things. You still have to put in the work, and life still happens, but this is kind of my foundation for how I do well. So I know that whatever they throw at me, as long as I stick to my base and my foundation of things, that I'm gonna get through it, and I'm most likely gonna do well. I start my ADN program in August, so who knows? I'm sure I'll have to adjust my foundation of things as I do clinicals and skills labs, because every class is different and you have to adjust those things accordingly. Sometimes you may need more sleep or better time management. Sometimes maybe like you can get by with not as much sleep. So this summer I'm taking 2 classes just to keep things fresh and flowing, and they're pretty basic classes, so I can kind of get by on not needing as much sleep, or I can be more flexible in time management and things like that. So this is just my personal experience. Everybody is different. Every situation is different. Every class is different. Every college is different. So just try to have a good foundation of things that make your brain stable and ready and prepared to get through the semester. I'm gonna be doing a more in-depth how I study video, especially when it comes to anatomy and physiology classes and math classes. So watch out for that. But that's all I have for you today. Good luck on your college journey. Bye for now.